Hello, everyone. Welcome to YouTube Model Builders Tuesday night presentation. Tonight we have the last episode of the JMRI, and we got Chris with us, Andy with us, Dave with us, and a few others that might pop in and out. Tonight we're going to go over the operations portion. It's just going to be an in and out, kind of a quick illustration of the operations side of the JMRI. So stay tuned with us on that, and we'll have quite a bit of information on that. Plus, at the end of the operations session of this Tuesday night presentation, we'll have a quick overview. Any questions from you viewers that want to come in and ask us questions on the Q&A and all of that, we'll be glad to answer those. And then just to let you know that the Tuesday night presentations and the Thursday night presentations are sponsored by YouTube Model Builders, which is involved in the eMag, the Hangouts, of course, and the monthly live show. YouTubeModelBuilders.com is the place to go to get all of your latest information on the eMag and the Hangouts and the live show, and a lot more different information that has to do with model railroading. Plus, I don't want to forget the Thursday night Hangouts with Johnny Reb. It's basically a general model railroader hangout. They get in there and they'll have an open discussion. They'll come up with a topic to talk about. And so don't forget about the Thursday night hangouts. This Saturday will be the live show. It'll be me and Bill and Johnny Reb. Barry's going to step out. He has a Christmas party to go to. Tis the season, just to let everybody know. I'm going to be on there to discuss the next year's. We're going to do a little bit of change up on the Tuesday night presentations. So we're going to discuss that a little bit, what you guys have to look forward for next year when it comes to the Tuesday night presentations. And Johnny's going to be our IT guy. I think he's going to probably take the spot of Barry. It should be a really nice, fun show. That'll be the last one for until after the first of the year. So anyways, these JMRIs have come a long way since we've started the presentations and on these JMRI. But anyways, we've gotten a little in depth into some of the presentations. Chris has done an exceptional job on having some presentations actually of the JMRI, certain functions, certain keys that are on the JMRI. I think it's helped out a lot. I think Dave has learned a lot about it, and so has Jim, Michigan. He has really came a long ways. He actually has moved up into the newer stuff in the DCC controls. He's going to start doing some JMRI stuff. Matter of fact, he's actually building a new layout. Finally, he got a hold of the track planner, and they came together and came up with this cool track design. But anyways, Andy has helped out a lot. We got quite a few presenters that has come on through the 4 months of us doing this. They have had a lot of good advice, what not to do. I know that Troy has he's been a lot of help as well. Matter of fact, he's another one that's changing a bunch of stuff on his layout, and actually he's completely changing the scale. And so he's got a whole bunch of new wiring stuff. Maybe he'll come on a little bit later and he'll go over some of the stuff that he's put together on his new layout. And but don't worry, guys, this is not really where the JMRI is going to end. Next year we'll have some new stuff planned. We're all going to get together and expand this JMRI. There's so much to talk about when it comes to JMRI. I know that you guys that want to have questions, this is what this is all about, for you guys to come on and ask the questions. If you can't actually get on to the live presentation itself, come on and watch the show on the Q&A and type in your question, and we'll be glad to answer those questions. Um, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Chris, and we'll talk a little bit about operations. This might end up to be a little bit of a shorter show than normal. We'll see what happens if we get any questions out of it. I know that once we get Andy going, we could turn it into a 2-hour show. Sometimes Chris is just as bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can help out in that part anytime.
I can
So anyways, with further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Chris, and he's got some good stuff to show you on the screen. And so stay tuned and watch Chris.
Okay, thanks, dude. So tonight I'm going to give you a real quick overview of operations and what it can do for you. The operations portion of JMRI allows you to create switch lists, you know, track your cars, tell them where they need to be set out and picked up, build your trains, etc. It's it's not car cards and waybills. It would replace that with a printed switch list. So I think we'll just go ahead and jump right in, and I'll give you the 30,000-foot overview of the whole thing. Is so many details. We could spend many hours going over all the details, trying to, you know, work through it from start to finish. But I'm going to show you the basics so that you know where to jump in and start reading the online help and figuring out where you want to go with it. So with that, let me start by sharing my screen. And there we go. So, does everybody see the Panel Pro startup screen?
Yeah, I see the Plymouth in the background too.
Yeah, I used to have one of those. It's on my wish list for the future. So, when you first get into start up your JMRI, and once again, we're going to assume that you already have it hooked up and working with your layout, or you don't even have to. You can run it on simulator mode too, which is what I'm going to do tonight. I'm not actually physically connected to the layout, but you notice there's a thing called operations right here across the top. You may or may not have that, and I'm going to show you how to get to it if you don't, but that's the one way to get into it. Otherwise, under tools, if you scroll way down second from the bottom, it says operations. That's how you can launch it. And the first thing you want to do is go to settings. And one of the things in settings is to add that operations to the main menu right here. I don't think it comes in by default. And I'll show you how to set that real quick so that it's always handy right here. But the main thing about operations, the key point to this whole program, you'll notice there's 6 items on the drop-down menu. These 6 items are the 6 areas that you need to set up and work in within operations. And you'll find these same 6 items on all your menus throughout the program, as you'll see tonight as we go through this. So basically, there are settings where you set your parameters for how you want things to work. Locations, which are your towns and industries that you want to serve. The cars, that's your roster of freight cars that you're going to use to move around the layout. Locomotives, which tracks all your locomotives if you want to assign certain locomotives to your trains. Routes, you build routes to tell it how to get from location to location, you know, when you run a train, either town to town or industry to industry or town to industry. It doesn't matter. A location is just a location. So the route is basically a set of locations in the order that you want to visit those locations. And then you have trains. That's where you get to actually create your switch list and run your trains and define what the trains are. So a train runs along a route pulling cars with a locomotive, two locations. So I guess it, if you look at it that way, these are the 5 basic areas, and of course the 6th is settings. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right to trains and show you a sample switch list so you know what we're going to be talking about tonight. And then we'll come back and visit the other ones real quick. Like I said, this is going to be basically a high-level overview, not a lot of extreme detail, just things I think you need to get started and things to watch out for along the way. So,
Chris, we have a question from Dwight here.
Okay.
But anyways, his question is, I mean, I could probably answer this, but I'll go ahead and let you answer it. Can you just use JMRI to set local sound, etc. only? I'm not interested in running a preferred hand of God for operations. You can go ahead and answer it if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. The beauty of JMRI is it isn't just one program. It's a whole bunch of different things put together, and you can use one, or you can use all, or you can use some of them. And operations is just one of the things within the whole suite of programs that's called JMRI. And then, of course, you can use the Decoder Pro if you're only interested in setting your decoders and your sound decoders. But I think once you get to the point where you want to do operations, this is something you might want to consider. So whether you're thinking of using it right now or not, it might not hurt to just watch and see what it can do for you, because it might change your mind down the road.
And
but,
Dwight, I'd like to extend what he's talking about too. Is see, we started this JMRI back in September. Was it September? I think it was September, and
yeah,
I'd have to look back. But if you go to YouTube videos and punch in YouTube model builders on YouTube, you can come up with all the videos of what we've done and all that. And we talked pretty extensively, I think, on sound, decoders themselves, how to program, how to use JMRI, and all that. So if you haven't gone back and watched a lot of those videos, watch them. They will be under JMRI in the YouTube Model Builders YouTube page. So they should be fairly easy to watch, and you can watch them all from there.
And I've said several times, talking on here, that if you just use Decoder Pro, don't worry about the rest of it. If you use Decoder Pro, you are absolutely getting your money's worth, and there's no reason you can't start using other things in the future. But there's many, many people that use nothing but Decoder Pro, and it is invaluable. And you always have the opportunity to do more.
Yeah, great. And thanks for asking a question, Dwight. I like extend that invitation to everybody who's out there. Don't be afraid to jump in with a question. That's what we're here for. So
that's right.
Just whatever you're thinking of, just throw it up there, and I won't be able to see it, but Dude can see it, and he'll cut me off, and we'll answer your questions. Okay, so back to this. I'm just going to show you a switch list real quick, and I'm not even going to really get in real quick on how I do it. I'm just going to show you one, and we'll come back to show you how I did this later. But here's a quick sample of a switch list that would print out on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I would put it on a clipboard and hand it to my operator. And it's basically telling me a train that I call the 850 Butte turn, runs from Helena, Montana to Butte, Montana, and then returns to Helena. So this just telling me here that I'm going to pick up these 3 cars in the Helena yard from a track called North 1. And then when I'm going to depart Helena westbound with those 3 cars, it's 134 feet long, my train is, and 75 tons. I'm going to pass the town of Garrison, but I don't have any work there. And then when I get the next line down, the scheduled work at Butte Yard, it's going to tell me I'm going to set out those 3 that I brought along with me, and I'm going to pick up 2 to bring back to Helena. And it tells me, the reporting mark, the car number, how long it is, what type of car, the color, and as well as the track that it's sitting on. And those are all things that you'll have to define as you build your operations, and we'll get into a little bit later. So then when I depart the Butte yard, I'm going to be going westbound with, actually it should be eastbound, so I screwed up something on my route that I'll have to fix there. With 2 cars, be 94 feet long, 158 tons. Once again, we'll pass by Garrison with no work, and then we'll arrive back at Helena and set out those 2 cars on a track called North 3. So that's a real quick and simple switch list that I just wanted to show you. A real easy job. Normally it'll have anywhere from 15 to 20 some cars, but I'm in the middle of redoing my operations, so at this point those are the only cars that would be available to use right now. So, and you know, I can do the same thing. I have 4 other trains. You notice in the upper left corner here it says trains. This is one of those 6 windows that we talked about in the beginning called trains, and this is where you actually define all your trains. I have the 850, I have the number 851, which is a train that only works in the town of Butte. I have a train called the LM, which runs from Laurel to Missoula, Montana, and another one called the ML that runs the opposite way from Missoula to Laurel. So those are 4 trains I have built at this time that I run in my operating sessions. I can, of course, build more as I need to, but these are the 4 main ones that I'm running right now. Then I could go ahead and build each one of these and then preview them too. And so once again, there's very few cars on it because I'm in the middle of redefining everything. But this would be the switch list for the 851, and I could go ahead and print that, put it on a clipboard, give it to the engineer or the conductor. Here's another one. This is a sample of the LM. And you can change the look and feel of these. That's something else we'll cover a little later too. But this gives you an idea what it is we're talking about tonight. The whole purpose of what we're doing tonight is to actually generate that switch list. And JMRI, as long as you actually move the cars where it tells you to, you know, it keeps track of where the cars are. And next time you run another session, all you do is just as simple as what we just did a minute ago. I hit the build button and I print it and it's ready to go. The only time anything gets screwed up is if a car doesn't get delivered like it should be, and even then it's a very simple fix. So, but the whole point of this operations is basically to generate these switch lists for operating sessions. So now let's go back to the beginning, where I'd like to start and where everybody should start when you first get into operations, and that's once again, you notice the word operations. If I click on it, here's our 6 major categories. So and it's available on any one of the windows, so it's always there for quick jump to another window. So I'll hit settings, and this is the screen you get. And basically it defines a few things like which way do your trains travel, north, south, or east and west. Most railroads in real life are either east-west or north-south, regardless of the true direction. You know, they use either north-south or east and west, and you can actually pick them both, or you can just pick one or the other. You can pick your scale. You can set the maximum train length, the maximum number of locomotives per train. You can get, you know, really complicated. You don't have to do these things. You notice I left 0 horsepower per ton. If you want to get that complicated, you could. Switch time in minutes, that's per car. So if you want to actually have a timetable and have an idea how long it's going to take, you know, if there's 10 cars, 3 minutes a car would be 30 minutes. Travel time, you can set an average travel time between locations. I set mine to 5 minutes, but I could fake that and I could call it 60 minutes, and if I was working on a fast clock or if I just wanted to simulate time in some manner, because on the switch list it actually shows you times if you want to. And
do you just use a real-time clock, or do you use a fast clock?
I don't use a clock at all. The only thing I use, I only set that just to see what it does in the program. But
so you operate sequentially?
I operate sequentially, correct.
Yeah, and this supports either way that people want to operate. So if you want a timetable, that's great. If you want a fast clock, that's great. If you just want to run one thing after another, that works.
Yeah, because if I go back to the trains, and I'll just preview this one again. Do you notice here it says scheduled work at Helena, departure time 0000 or midnight. Okay. Scheduled work at Butte Yard, arrival time 0:10, so 10 minutes later. It counted 5 minutes from Helena to Garrison and 5 minutes from Garrison to Butte. Because back on this screen I said, in settings I said travel time is 5 minutes, so that's the average time it takes to travel between any two locations. So that's what that's there for if you care to use it. You notice here, by the time we get back to Helena, it says 0:35 or 12:35. What it did was it took 10 minutes to travel back from Butte to Helena, but it also added 3 minutes per car switch time. So I had 5 cars times 3 minutes is 15 minutes. So I actually added all of that up. 15 minutes plus 10 minutes is 25. So you see it went from 10 to 35. So, but you can actually set scheduled departure times and things like that if you really want to. I just don't. I choose not to, but there's no reason you can't.
Hey, Chris, we got a question from Newcastle Railroad. How do the app? Yeah, I guess how do the apps work for the iPad? Can you just use for switch lists? So, like the iPad, can you use just that for the switch list?
You could use it to display your switch list.
Oh, there you go.
You can't use it to do what we're doing right now. You need to use your computer to get into JMRI and do the programming. But once it's operations night, yes, just like you can use a throttle from JMRI, you can also display your switch lists on either a cell phone or a tablet, either Android or Apple. Yeah, they actually have another little module called Conductor that it is a more detailed switch list right on your tablet or on your phone that the conductor can use to actually mark off cars as he picks them up. So not only does it give you the list, but it gives the ability to say, put a check mark in and say, yes, I picked that one up. Yes, I picked this one up. And then it'll actually readjust the location in real time in the program. So that's kind of neat too. Wasn't one of the things I was going to cover tonight, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. So you can also tell it car types. You can either have a description, like box car, covered hopper, whatever name you want to call it, or you can use the AAR codes, which is a standard set of codes that the railroads use. Like LO is covered hopper, XM is box car. So I choose to use a descriptive one because I don't expect all my operators to understand the AAR codes. I'd rather just give it something that they can quickly and easily understand. I'm not trying to make this difficult for them. I'm trying to make it easy. So I stick with flat car, bulkhead flat car, covered hopper. I do use sometimes I throw in an AAR code, but you got your choice to do either one. Then you can do your unit of length in feet or meters. You can put in the year that you're modeling. In my case, it's 1995. That'll actually show up on your switch list if you want as the date. And then there's other options that I'm not going to really get into. I'll let you explore those on your own. But the main ones were the ones we just covered. Everything basically on here is optional. You'll find out. None of it's really absolutely mandatory, but it certainly makes life easier in some cases. So the biggest thing to understand about the settings window is these ones right on the bottom here: restore, backup, and save. I wish they'd get rid of the save button, and I'm gonna ask you guys to ignore that when you first start on this. And the reason is you can actually if you make some changes and you end up not liking them and you hit that save button, you're kind of stuck with them. So I use a system of using the restore and the backup. Every time I make a change with it, you know, if I add some cars or I change my train route or something like that, I go ahead and hit the backup button. And what that does is it gives you a snapshot in time where all the cars are, what the locations are, you know, what the tracks are, all of that stuff. So if you go ahead and hit backup, it defaults with the date and _00. And what I do is I'll just leave that 00. Then I'll add a description like added. I could take the caps off. New cars. Then I hit backup. So now I took that snapshot in time of just exactly the way everything is set. Now I can go ahead and make a bunch of changes, and if I don't like them, I can go back and use the restore button to reset everything back to that point in time. So I use this all the time when I'm experimenting. Because if I go ahead and make some, let's say I back it up, I make some changes, I hit save, but I didn't hit restore, I'm not going to back up to that point in time. So, you know, I just as soon ignore that. I ignore that save altogether. All I do is backup and restore. So make some change. I back it up. I make some changes. If I like it, I'll do another backup. And I'll change this to like 01 if it's on the same day. And I'll say, you know, added a location or something else descriptive that tells me what I changed. And I'll back it up again. And eventually, when you go back to restore, you see it says manual backups. Make sure that's checked, and then hit the little drop box. You'll see all of these that you added. So here's the 2 that I just added right now while we were talking. Here's 2 that I had in there from before. The one says phase 2 good. That means when I put good on there, I mean everything's confirmed working. I'm like it. I'm happy where it was at. The next one after that says started LO wheat setup. Well, that tells me I was starting to set up some covered hoppers that are used to transport wheat on my layout. But obviously I didn't get finished with it because there's not another one after that that says good. So that's where I left off. But the beauty of this backup and restore is I can go ahead and hit this one. I hit restore. Tells me I have to restart JMRI. So it only usually takes a couple seconds. We'll see it comes right back up. What it did now, it went out, read all the data from that snapshot in time and just reloads it. And now it's just if I have never changed anything since then. So I'll go back to settings. Or if I look at my cars, you know, all the cars should be exactly in the location and whatever cars I had on the layout at that time. If I hit restore and go to the next one, it'll be different because I made changes. So I can actually restore it back to that point in time. So this is probably the most important concept, and that's why I'm spending a little time on it in this entire thing, because when I first started using this, I wasn't doing this properly, and I lost data. I mean, I'd spend an hour putting in, you know, 30 cars or something, and I didn't back it up. Then I made a change, and I said, oh crap, I don't like that change, and all of a sudden I go back and hit restore, and I lost all 30 of those cars. So I restore religiously. Every time I make any change, I do a backup, and then you always have, even if you lose a little something, you might not lose a lot by falling back to one of your backups. So it's a great habit to get into, and I strongly recommend playing around with that when you first get started. Just make it a habit, so you don't end up redoing work all the time when you make a mistake. So that's basically the settings window in a nutshell, the first one of the 6. Once you get a couple settings put in here, and you don't even have to do any, like I said, then you go to locations. This is where you want to start adding towns. Now, if you pretend that this was blank and none of these existed, because that's what it's going to look like when you're starting for the first time, you're going to want to go down into this button and hit add to add your first location. And basically you just give it a name, and I'm going to call it Dudeville. Oops, didn't type that very good, did I?
Ha 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 ha.
In honor of our host, we'll call it Dudeville. So as soon as you do that, you have to, oh, I gotta hide my screen sharing. There it is. Add location. Okay, and once I do that, it now allows me to make some settings. By default, it lists every type of car that you have set as being able to be served at that industry. And that's something we'll cover a little later too, but you can actually pick and choose what types of cars are served at that town or that industry. So in this case, we're going to consider it a town. Or let's make it an industry. I'll just call it Dudeville Automotive or something here. How's that? Once again, my typing is stellar. Automotive. There we go. And just by hitting save, it'll save that change in the name. Now if you look up here, I've got Dudeville Automotive. I don't have any tracks defined yet. So we could do that real quick. Once you have a location, you tell it what kind of tracks are there. And here's where you're going to have to spend some time with the help in JMRI, because this can get a little tricky. There's spurs, which are basically tracks where you set out and pick up cars. There's yards, or yard tracks. There's classification and interchange tracks, and there's staging only tracks. So that's the four types. A track can be any one of these four types. And I'm going to let you read about those. That's a little deeper than we want to go tonight, but I recommend you jump in and read that as one of the first things you do and understand what the four types are. So we're just going to add a spur real quick, and I'm going to call it the, I don't know, parts track or something, where you can drop off parts, and the length is 400 feet. Hit add spur track. Oh, must be a number. Okay. Didn't like the little foot thing on there. And I'll save it. So now we have a location called Dudeville Automotive with a spur named Parts, and it's 400 feet long. Once you start using it, you'll see that it'll actually tell you how many cars are there, how much length of that 400 feet are used up by those cars, if there's any pickups or setouts ready to go. There's a lot of neat information, but the basic concept is you create a location and then you add tracks to that location. Now I could add another track. If there's two spurs at that location, I can quickly add another one and call it outgoing cars or something. Okay. And that one's 350 feet. Add the spur track. Maybe I want to say that this, if I hit clear all, you notice all those check marks just went away in the car types. And I'm going to put, I'll just pick XM miscellaneous. That's a miscellaneous boxcar. Because I only have that one checked, that's the only type of car that can be set out or picked up on that spur. JMRI will not let you set out or pick up any other type of car on that spur, or it won't schedule any to go to that spur. So it's a way of controlling certain types of cars and where they go. And there's other options down here that you can read about and learn as you go too, but when you're done, you hit save the spur track and you're done. If you don't like it, you can go back into edit again and you can delete it, or you can use it as a template to add another spur track. Let's say I add a third one and it's also 400 feet. I could just change the name, leave everything else the same, and I'll just call it the 3 track. Oops. And if I hit add spur, it just actually added that as a new one with the same settings. So now we have 3-track, outgoing cars, and parts. So that's kind of locations in a nutshell. You want to do a location for each town or each industry that you want. You know, you can do either or, like I said earlier. You can do nothing but towns, you can do nothing but industries, depending on your layout, or you could have a mixture of towns and industries. Each location can be either or.
And are they embedded in each other? So if you have a town, it has industries within it. So there's a hierarchy, I guess, right?
Well, you'll define that with your routes later on, I guess, is the best way to look at that.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. That's the part I wasn't understanding. I've got all my data entered in this as well,
Yep.
but the routes part is what really gets kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, you know, those are the key concepts are locations, cars, locomotives, routes, and trains, you know, and once you get them all together, they all depend on each other to run. You can't run this with only if you're missing any one of those. Other than locomotives is optional. I don't even use that, but
When I've done all my data entry on everything but routes, and I've started messing with routes, but wrapping my head around routes is a little. So I'm looking forward when you get to that step. But anyway.
okay, well, hopefully I can help you out. So, all right, so the next step after we have some locations is to add some cars. You know, at this point in time, if you look down where my cursor is, it says 195 cars. That's how many I have right now that are actually accounted for on the layout. Although a lot of them, if you notice this little 0 with the little brackets on each side of it, that says that it's out of service. Remember when I was showing you the switch list, it only had 2 or 3 cars per train. That's because I literally put every one of my cars out of service as I started to rebuild my whole operations. So right now, the majority of my cars are out of the service. As I scroll up and down, you'll see there's very few that don't have this little 0 with the brackets in front of it. That's because I set them out of service, and the program will ignore them and treat them as if they're on a RIP track or that they're not even on the layout. So I'll walk you through real quick how to add a car. It's right down here is the add button. You know, you're going to start out, once again, this will be all blank, not full of information like mine is. But if you hit add, the first thing you'll do is you'll find a pre-populated list of a whole bunch of the more common reporting marks, like UP, you know, Union Pacific. I'll just grab that one. If you happen to have your own railroad, or if you happen to find a oddball that's not on the list, you can always add them. If you want to add it, you can go to this edit button. You can just type in the name. I'll just make it DUD. We'll pick on dude tonight. And hit add. Okay, and that's now going to be an option on that drop-down list every time I go to it. See, now the first time, this is a little, I'm going to show you this because this is a weird little, the first time you put it in here, it puts it at the very top of the list. It doesn't put it in alphabetical order with the rest of them. So if you jump in here and you scroll down and it's like, where's dude? I just added it. Scroll way to the top, you'll find it. The first time you add it. The next, after you exit this program once and come back in, it'll be in alphabetical order like the rest of them. But that's a little something that caught me the first couple times I used this program. It's like, come on, I just put it in. Where did it go? It's there. It's just at the top of the list.
Hey, Chris, now that drop down, are those road numbers there if you're using it for the first time, or is that one that you've put in there?
No, there's a pre-populated list of quite a few of the common ones. You know,
Okay.
most of these were in here. There's only a few that I had to add as I went along.
Now, my other question, it says over there on the right, clear. Is that going to just be clear the ones that you put in there, or will it clear that whole, all of those?
Well, that's actually for the next thing down, which
Oh,
is the
road.
road
Oh,
number.
road number. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll just make the road number 1,001. Okay. And if you hit clear on that, it'll actually clear the number. See? That's all it does. So I'll make it 1,00002 now instead. The next thing you want to do is tell it what type of car. Remember back in settings, when we chose either descriptive or AAR codes, that's where this comes into play. So by being descriptive, here again, just like we did with the road name, we can add all the descriptions we want by using the edit button. So you notice LO flower, LO grain, LO miss, that's miscellaneous, LO red wing, LO wheat. Those are all custom ones that I made. They're covered hoppers that handle either flour, grain, wheat, or in the case of Red Wing, those cars are dedicated to Red Wing milling, which is an industry in Butte. So just like there's some that are some basic ones that are pre-populated in here, like tank, flat, you know, a couple of them, not a whole lot if you use descriptive. If you use AAR code, it gives you the whole darn list, as far as I know. But just like the road, you can go in here and edit, and if the one you want is not on the drop down right here, you can just add your own. So I'm going to say boxcar car parts. And I hit add. Oh, I put too many characters. Okay. I'll just say parts then. Do I want to add this new type of service? Yes. Now it's asking me these questions because if you remember when we were doing a location, you could check which type of cars are serviced by a location. That's kind of why it's asking you this question now. Do you want me to modify all your locations to add this type of car? So I'm just saying yes by default. If it'll go to the majority of your industries, it's easier to just say yes and then go back and uncheck the ones that can't handle it. But if you have a very specific car for a very specific industry, you'd want to say no, because by default, none of your locations will handle that car until you edit that location to tell it, yes, I can handle that car. So I'm going to just say yes for now. And see, it even popped up this little window, which I'm not going to really get into, but it allows you to quickly go through all your locations and say yes or no whether it handles that car. So, but that's getting a little deep. I'm just going to close that for now. So now we got the Dude Railroad with a boxcar of parts. If you want, you can get into passenger cars, cabooses, whether it has a Fred on it, hazardous materials, a utility car. I don't use those things. Those are just, you know, more additional fine details you can add, read about and help and add if you want, but I haven't used them to date, so I haven't really had a need to. But this one is important, length. You know, pick a length for it in prototype feet, like a 50-foot box car, you pick 50, you know, is it a 89-foot flat car or 86-foot, you can pick that. And once again, well, I'm just going to make this a 50-footer for now. Once again, if the number you want isn't on there, just hit edit. You know, you can double check the list here. It's not on here. Let's make it a 89-footer. Hit add. So now we have an 89-foot, and just like before, it's at the top, not down here, until the first time you close this program and reopen it, then it'll end up down here. So all these kind of operate on that same principle as you go along. Now this is really cool here when you get to the weight. If you put in the ounces as in the true weight, like I throw that on my little scale and it weighs 7.1 ounces, it'll actually calculate that into scale tons. So if you remember back here in our settings, we told it this is an HO scale layout. But when I put in 7.1 ounces, it calculates that to 142 tons. So back on our switch list, when it told me how many tons my train was, it's taking this tonnage from each one of your cars that's in the train and totaling them up, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's incredible that software does that for you.
And this little check mark on automatic, you know, this will do that automatically. If I change this to 9 ounces and then click somewhere else here. No, it didn't. All right, let's do calculate. Well, that's weird. Normally it'll do that automatically for you. It's trying to do it backwards. There must be something in the settings I changed. Let me just delete that and see what happens quick. And delete that one. So now if I put in 8 ounces, calculate. Oh, I know what it's doing. It's basing it on the length. It takes the length of 89 feet, and then it uses the NMRA standard of how much an 89-foot car in HO scale should weigh in ounces, and it gives you that number in ounces and in tons. That's what that does. I noticed if I changed the length to 35 feet, now it changed to 3.4 ounces and 68 tons. So this will literally tell you how much that car should weigh per NMRA standards if you want to.
And then you weigh them accordingly.
Yep. Yeah, then you weigh them and add weight, you know, accordingly. So
now the question I'm going to ask you said that you were on, when you fired up JMRI tonight, you are on, what mode are you on?
Oh, a simulator?
Simulator, okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's say if somebody just wants to sit down at their computer and open up their computer, fire up JMRI, can they go in and do what you're doing, start typing in all their cars, get all of that put in there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not even connected to my layout right now. And that's what simulator mode allows you to do.
Well, because I hear a lot, Chris, that guys will be confused that they can't mess with JMRI unless it's tied to their layout.
Okay, so I'll show you real quick. We'll get a little off topic because that is a great question, and I think it bears showing you real quick. When you first get to your opening screen, you notice right here it's active profile and it says NCE Sim using simulator on none. Okay, that just tells me I'm in simulation mode. But if you go to Edit and Preferences, you notice there under Connections up here, I have 2 connections. I have serial, which is when I'm actually connected to my layout using the serial cable.
Okay.
And then simulator. Now, I'll show you how to set that up real quick. If you hit the plus sign on this tab, it allows me to create a new. I could actually even simulate that I'm running Digitrax and not NCE. If I select Digitrax and it asks you what's your system connection, you scroll down through the list, you notice there's a local net simulator.
Oh, okay.
So there's local buffer, there's PR2, PR3. You know, if I was actually physically connecting to my layout and I have a PR3, I would select PR3. If I want to sit up in my recliner watching TV and work on JMRI, I would select LocalNet Simulator. And what that does is JMRI pretends that it's hooked up to a command station, and this particular case, a Digitrax command station, and everything functions just exactly the same as if you were, everything within JMRI functions just the same as if you're hooked up to your layout. Obviously, your layout won't function. None of your turnouts or any of that stuff will work because you aren't physically connected, but it allows the program to go ahead and work just like it was connected. So you can set up your entire operations laying in bed if you want and never go downstairs and plug into the layout. You know what I mean? And rather than changing your connection all the time, I just create, I'm going to delete this one because I just literally created one for simulator and one for serial. And you notice right down here it says disable connection. So if I put a check mark in the disable connection and I make sure there's not a check mark in this one, that's why it started up in simulator mode. If I would have had a check mark in here and not a check mark in here, when I started JMRI, it would have attempted to make the connection to my layout, and then I would have got an error message because I'm not currently plugged into the layout. So I always just leave it in simulator mode until I'm actually, you know, doing operations or running the layout. So I'm going to switch these back because otherwise, every time you make a change and hit save, this is going to actually restart JMRI, and I don't want to do that because we're in the middle of.
Thank you for that. Thank you for answering that question.
But I think it was a great question and is important, and that's why I took the time because, yeah, I want everybody to know you can sit here and do all this sitting at your kitchen table, sitting in your recliner. Don't have to be connected to the layout at all.
Well, I think right now is a good time to go ahead and do a YouTube Model Builders ad sponsor.
Take it away.
To kind of give you a little bit of a break. Anyways, I want to thank everybody coming to watch the Tuesday night YouTube Model Builders Hangout presentations. We have been discussing JMRI pretty consistently the last 4 months, and we've had Chris on here, Andy on here, Dave as a participant. He's a newcomer to JMRI. Everybody should thank Dave, more or less, for getting us to start doing these JMRI stuff. And, of course, we got, I see Tommy came on here. Tommy's been helping us out a little bit onto the programming side of it. He's done some pretty good stuff for us. Just to let you guys know that all of these videos are recorded, and they are on the YouTube Model Builders YouTube page. If you have not seen all of them, go there. They are in the JMRI section of the video lists. On the YouTube page. There's quite a bit of JMRI stuff, and there's going to be more after the first of the year. We're going to start not doing them as many, but we're going to go into more in depth in the JMRI stuff. Hopefully we can get some actual JMRI people to come on and do a presentation. We're trying to do something, pull some strings to see what we can do on there. So anyways, I want to, another thing I want to talk about is YouTubeModelBuilders.com is a good source to go get all of your information for YouTube Model Builders, the eMag, the Hangouts, and the live shows. The last subscription of the eMag is out right now. If you have not gone on and signed up for this free magazine, online magazine, just go to YouTube Model Builders, click on the eMag insignia, and it will take you there, and it'll show you everything that you need to do to get that bi-monthly subscription. Of course, I don't want to forget about Johnny Reb and the Thursday night presentations. Those are also recorded now. They get in there and get a good group going, and they bring up a topic to discuss. Sometimes they might be on several different topics through the night. So go check that out as well. plus the live show every month. Matter of fact, this Saturday is the next live show. Bill Graham and Barry Raju are the host of it. Barry's going to be out this weekend. Johnny Reb's going to take his place. I'll be on there to discuss a little bit more in depth of what we're got in for you guys, the presentations for next year, and it should all be really good. I think everybody should be looking forward to seeing those for next year. It should be all really good. It's not going to be much changing in the host. Of course, Barry's going to be doing most of the JMRI stuff. He'll be the actual host of it, and then he'll bring on the guests. Matter of fact, a lot of the guys that have been doing the JMRI stuff will be on next year as well. But anyways, stay tuned for this weekend's live show, and you'll get some more information on that. So back to Chris.
Okay. So I'll just wrap up the cars real quick here. Once you put in the cars, you'll notice it gives you all kinds of information. It's the car number, the road reporting marks, the type, the length, whether it's loaded or empty. A kernel is like a group of cars. Like if you have a 50-car set of coal cars, it always runs together. You don't need to track all the individual numbers. They always stay together as a group. Let's say it just runs one end of the layout to the other. That's called a kernel. Like in the case you can see these three right here, that's called Pulp 2. All three of these cars are in a kernel called Pulp 2. Well, those are bulkhead flat cars that carry pulpwood, and those three cars always run together as a set. So by assigning it to a kernel, the program knows that always send those cars together wherever they're going and always bring them back. You know, they always travel as a group. That's what kernel means. Of course, it tells you the current location, the destination if it's en route to somewhere already. Like this one here, it's currently sitting in the Helena Yard on the North 1 Butte track. Its ultimate destination is the Red Wing Milling to the flour loading track. So you can always see the destination. And then there's, once it's been assigned to a train, if you build the trains, that number will show up in the train column. And then moves, every time a train moves, a car moves, it counts the move. And those numbers will get built up. And notice mine are all 0 right now because, like I said, I just recently reset this entire thing because I'm rebuilding my operations. But the way it keeps a car from sitting around and never getting used is by using the move count. It gives priority to cars with the lowest amount of moves. So you don't get a car that gets stuck somewhere and never moves. If you get a car that's stuck and not moving, it's because of something else other than the program just ignoring it. There's a good reason, like it doesn't have a destination it can go to, or a train that'll carry that type of car or something. But moves really is just a way to make sure that all cars keep moving on a fairly regular basis. The two important buttons are set and edit. They're fairly similar but different. I'll start with edit first. If you want to change any of the information in your car, including the location where it is right now, you can just go into the edit button, hit the edit button, and you could change the road name, the road number, the type, the length, its current location, its color, anything you want that's on this list can be simply changed and then hit save. Or if you're looking to delete a car, this is where you would do it too. Or you can even add another car that has the exact same information but maybe one little different thing. Let's say I had 2 of these cars numbered 56 and 57. Well, after I add number 56, I could just simply change that 56 to 57 and hit the add button, and now it will create another brand new car with all the same information except for the road number. So if you got let's say you bought a set of 10 boxcars, they're all identical except for the road number. That's a way to quickly add them without repeating all this information, having to add it over and over and over again. So anytime you have similar cars with only one or two things different on them, that's a good way to save a lot of time entering cars. The other button is set. This one kind of, it's more for telling it where the car is. You notice it says the car number and name and type, but it doesn't let me edit them here. But it will let you put it out of service by clicking this. Or if the location is unknown, let's say on your switch list, it told the operator there's supposed to be a car on a certain track in the yard and it's not there, you can hit location unknown and it'll actually print a little message on the bottom of every switch list for all the operators to be on the lookout for that car. Maybe somebody forgot to pick it up last time and it's on the other end of the layout somewhere. Rather than running around and trying to find it, you could just click this location unknown and then it'll automatically generate a message on all your switch lists that it's a missing car and be on the lookout for it. Come in handy on a big club size layout or something, Of course, the location and track, these are like I showed you how to set up a location. Here's Dudeville Automotive, and it's on the outgoing cars. You can set a return when empty, like car cards and waybills often have a return when empty. It might be loaded and go to one town, and when it's empty, you always want it returned to a specific place for loading again. You could set that here. I could set it at Dudeville Automotive on the parts track, let's say. And you can tell it whether it's loaded or empty. And once it gets there, it'll switch automatically from load to empty. But those kind of things that are getting a little more advanced right now. Here you can tell it if it's part of a kernel like we talked about a minute ago. And a couple other things that are a little more detailed than we need to get into right now. But basically, it's a good set of information for editing where your car is and how it might be routed. So that's cars in a nutshell. Oh, the other thing I'll show you real quick is you can sort these. I do this all the time. I can sort by clicking on here. It'll sort by destination. I know it's really hard to see, but there's a little gray up arrow here. If I click on here again, it changes to a down arrow. That just means sorting from A to Z or from Z to A. Or when you click it a third time, then it goes back to wherever it was before. So you just keep cycling through, sorted A to Z, Z to A, or not sorted. And you can do that on any one of the columns. And you can also change by clicking these little buttons down here where my mouse is going back and forth. You can actually change what information is up on the top here. Notice when I hit destination now, it changed some of the information. I could do it by loads or by color. Oh, that's a sort by, is what it's actually doing. So we play around with these and you'll find out real quick what it can do. You can actually find a car too. There's this neat little button they added. It's called Find. If I know that it's the car number was one, or the road name was Dude, I hit Find. Oh, that's road number. I'm sorry. Okay, so I got to put in 10002. Hit Find. Oh, one more zero. Try that. Oh, can't find it. All right. Maybe I didn't actually add that car. Maybe I ended up deleting it. Anyways, you could try that and see what it does. I haven't really ever used it before, but if you need to find a car, that's one way to do it. So.
Now, I know that you... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Newcastle Railroad has another question, and I think you've gone over this a little bit just as we started. Can you print out car cards and waybill and how to do it?
Nope. This is strictly for doing switch lists. This won't do car cards and waybills. This is for doing a printed switch list. It does all the car cards and waybills for you, and then just, so to speak, and then does a printed switch list for you. But no, the answer is it will not generate car cards and waybills. It does the same type of thing. It does your car routing for you like a car card and waybill would do, but it does it in a switch list format. So that's kind of it for cars. And once again, if I click on the operations, here's our 6 main categories. Locomotives, I'm going to skim over real quick because I don't even use it. But if you want to get fancy and say that, you know, only a certain locomotive can run on a certain train or go to a certain destination, there's all the options in the world you need here to do that. And just like everything else in this whole program, if you go to the help one, there's a help in every one of these windows. If you go to the one that says window help, it'll actually jump you, takes you to the help, and it jumps you to the help specifically about the window you're looking at the time. If you go to general help, it just takes you to the main help screen and you got to dig through and find what you're looking for. But if I want to know what this locomotive window is about, I could go to help and then hit window help, and it should open up the help screen and jump me right to the locomotive section where I can then start to read about it. Oops, I kind of scrolled past it. There's a very extensive help built into this and also online at the JMRI website. So, you know, this is what you're going to have to do if you plan to use operations, is spend a lot of time reading and understanding the help. I know I have. I'd be lying if I'd said this was easy and intuitive. You know, it's going to take a commitment if you want to use operations, but once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. It's just to get started the first time and make things kind of work the first time through takes some time and effort on your part. And the help is going to really be a big help. I mean, I could sit here preaching for hours and hours and hours and still not probably be able to get you started, so to speak, just because of the differences from one railroad to the next, what you want to do, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I'd be glad to show you these main points to get you started, and maybe if you get hung up on something, be able to help you get through it, but there's just so many things, and everybody uses it in a little different way. I just can't possibly cover it all. So just bear in mind that this help is very helpful in the end. Use it a lot. The other thing I want to point out is each one of these windows, when you're in it, has different options that are specific to that window. Like under the tools, here it all deals with the locomotive roster. You can actually, if you're using Decoder Pro and you have all your locomotives in on Decoder Pro, you can actually import that. Like if I hit import from JMRI roster, just like that, 33 locomotives added. I now have 33 locomotives added. Every one of them that I have in Decoder Pro now just was imported into operations. So it has the name, the number, the model, the horsepower, the type of is it diesel, whatever you told it in JMRI. So if you do plan to use locomotives, that's a good way to bring them in real quick and easy if you've already got them in Decoder Pro. And the next thing is routes. This is where the meat and potatoes are. So we have locations, we have cars. Now we need to have some routes, because that's going to tell me how to get from location to location. And I'm going to use the 850 that we looked at the switch list for in the beginning. Remember, we ran from Helena to Butte, Montana, and then back to Helena. That's a local turn. So I'm going to go, that's this one right here. If I go ahead and hit the edit, it brings up this window. And this is where you actually define what the train does from the time it leaves till the time it's finished. So up here I give it a name, and I just give it the same name as the actual train numbers because I know this route applies specifically to this train. But if you wanted a generic route that gets you from one end of your layout to the other, you could just call it, you know, east to west, or A to B, or whatever you want to call it. This one I have specific for this train only, but it doesn't have to be. You can make a generic route that 10 different trains could use too, if they all, you know, 1 yard to the next, and they could all use the same exact route. You might have 6 trains running the same day on the same route. There's no reason you can't use a generic route too. So, but what this tells me is it starts at the top and works its way down. So it starts in Helena. It's going west. It's going to make a maximum of 35 moves, and I'm not going to get into that. That's getting technical. Can it do pickups in Helena? Yes. Will it do setouts? And in this case, not right now. Later on it will, because we're coming back to Helena. But then you can do some other more detailed things like the maximum length of the train. I don't never want it to exceed more than 5,000 feet in real length. You know, I could say that. You know, let's say you have a passing siding that's 5,500 feet. You don't want any trains longer than your longest passing siding, so you can limit the length of your train right here along that route. So it doesn't matter what train uses that route, it won't program a train to use this route that's longer than 5,000 feet. This XY, that's kind of cool. Little sidebar, that's used for the layout panels, like I discussed in the last one of these we did when I showed you how to make a layout panel. There's actually little markers that can move along your layout panel, and this defines where that marker would be when it's at Helena. Kind of cool. I'll show you that sometime, but not tonight. So those are the main ones you worry about is the direction, pickups and setouts, and maximum length. The rest is doesn't necessarily have to be used if you don't want. So the next stop along the route is Garrison, and you notice it can't do pickups. I said no pickups, but it can do setouts. And the reason being is because it's going from Helena to Garrison to Butte and then coming back past Garrison again, there's no sense in hauling those cars to Butte and back again. So I'll set out cars as I pass the first time, and I'll do pickups when I come back in the opposite direction. So if you look, when we come past Garrison again, then it can do pickups, yes, but setouts, no. When you get to the Butte Yard, of course, you can do both, because that's the final destination. I want to set out cars and I want to pick up cars that are going back to Helena. So that's a yes and a yes. And once you get to Helena, all I want it to do is set out the cars it brought back with it. It doesn't need to pick any up because it's not going anywhere. It's the end of the line. So basically, to set up a route, you just pick the towns. I'm going to show you how to add a new one real quick. So you hit the add button down here. I'm just going to call this route A to B. And you got to hit the add route button at the bottom. And now everything lights up. Otherwise, it was all grayed out. The first thing you do is, where is this train starting? Well, I'm going to have it start in Missoula. So it's at the Missoula Yard. And you notice I hit the add location. Next to add location, there's add at start and add at end. So I can either add it at the top of the list or the bottom of the list as I'm building. So I'm going to just add it at the start, and there it is. In this case, we'll do pickups yes and setouts no. I'll leave everything else set as default. The next stop would be, it'll come past Garrison. So I can go ahead and hit add location. Now I'm going to change this to at the end. I don't want it to put it ahead of Missoula Yard. I want it at the bottom of my list. So I say add location, and there it is. Pickups, yes. Setouts, yes. I could change that to no and no. I just want it to go past without stopping. Then it'll get to Helena. Once again, we'll add it at the end because I want it. And I can do pickups and setouts. And from there, I can go to Laurel. And that would be the end of the route. So I'll do pickups, no, setouts, yes. So there's, if I hit the save button, there's a basic route that starts at Missoula, picking up cars, goes past Garrison with no work, goes to Helena, does pickups and setouts, and terminates at Laurel with just setouts. That's all you really need to do to set up a route. Everything else is additional things that if you want to get more technical, and you know, there's a grade thing in there. What's the maximum grade? It'll take the tonnage into account and things like that when adding horsepower for locomotives. You know, I mean, it could get really complicated if you want, but you don't have to. You can just run it basic like this. So that's that's your routes in a nutshell. And now how do you, we have routes, we have locations, and we have cars, but how do we make a train run? Well, that's the very last one, called trains. And like I showed you at the beginning, I have basically 4 trains built, and I'm going to build a new one just so we can walk through this, pretend those 4 don't exist. What you do is you hit the add button down here, and it's going to pop up a window, and it's going to ask for a name. So I'm going to call this train A to B, just like we called that route. And description, Missoula to Laurel. Here again, here's that time. If I want to put a departure time in there, I could make it 4 o'clock, but I don't run by a clock, so it really doesn't matter to me. Now you notice this is all grayed out, so once again you have to go to the bottom and hit add train, and now it all lights up and is ready to be used. So if you are using locomotives, you can make your selections here. I don't use them, so I don't use them at all in operations. I assign them myself. I don't want the program doing it for me. So if you did, here's some options. You could say only diesels, you know, maybe only a heavy steam or a light steam or mixed steam, or this is a switcher. But, you know, you could be specific about what type of locomotive can run this route. Now the important one is right here, the route. So we got the name, the description, the departure time, and then comes the route. I want it to run that A to B route that we just created a minute ago. So I assign that route to this train, and I'm going to hit Save Train. Now you'll see on my list I have this at the bottom, A to B. The description, it runs Missoula to Laurel. It uses route A to B. It departs the Missoula yard and terminates at Laurel. So this is a train, and it's ready to run. If I hit the build button, it's now going to assign, if I have cars in the Laurel yard that are heading to Helena, or I mean in the Missoula yard that are heading to Helena or Laurel, it should assign those cars and build a train for us. Now, okay. Staging. Don't want to get into that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and edit I'm going to edit this. I shouldn't. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to deal with that right now. Let's just skip over that. There's an issue with staging it's a little bit of a learning curve, and I don't even want to muddy the water right now with that. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this, and I'm going to give it a different route. I'm going to give it the route of the same as the 850. It's going from Helena to Butte and back. And I'm going to hit save. So now we have train A to B running. The description is wrong, obviously. Starts at Helena and ends at Helena. If I hit build, select the preview button down here, it changes these buttons to preview, and there's a switch list. There's no cars that were ready to run because they were already run by a previous train, but as you can see, Helena, Garrison, Butte, Garrison, Helena, because it's using that same 850 route. But anyways, let's just going to give you the highlights of this whole window and how it works. And I want to do something first. Just don't pay attention to what I'm doing for a second here. I'll cover it again in a minute. So when you first are ready to run, you'll have your list of trains, and you'll see that under this function it says build. And you also have these build check marks next to it. I'm going to clear all the check marks. And the reason I'm doing that is, you notice down here where my cursor is going back and forth, it says preview. I'm going to uncheck that. Underneath that, there's a build button, a print button, open, run, switch list, terminate, all kinds of stuff. The one we're interested in is build. If I hit this build button, it's going to go ahead and build any train that's got a check mark in it up here. So I can literally build all my trains at once, or I could do them one at a time. So I can do them one at a time here by hitting the build button, or I'm going to hit the reset, and I'll explain that in a minute. Or I can put in check marks, and instead of having to hit each one of these, I can hit this build button here, and it just built all 5 of my trains. Now you notice the function button says print. What that's going to do is send it to your printer and print you out that 8.5 by 11 switch list. If you want to look at it, just come down here, see where my cursor is, click the preview button. That print now changed to where it says preview. Now I can just click on it and look at this and make sure that it's right. And you're going to spend a lot of time doing this once you start adding cars and locations and stuff. I spend a lot of time cycling through these, making sure that when I make a change it actually works. The hardest part of this whole thing is getting everything to move like you want, and the only way to know that is to build a train and look at the switch list. If you're thinking there should be 10 cars going out on that train and there's only 3, then there's probably something wrong with either your location or your route or the car itself. So, you know, I often come in here and I just build and I preview. If I don't like what it did, you notice on the right-hand button here there it says action. That's all driven down here in the lower right under action. You have 4 choices: move, conductor, terminate, or reset. Now these are important, so I'm going to spend a minute on each of these and then we're going to pretty much be done. But what reset does, you notice all these trains were built because we just built them a minute ago. If I hit reset, it's basically like deleting it, like it never happened. So if I hit reset, it goes status as train reset. I'm going to reset each one of these one at a time. Now it's like I never built them. If you change this to terminate, I'm going to go ahead and build them all again. See, all the check marks are there. I can hit the build button. It just built all 5 of those trains, as you can tell, because now we can preview. If I hit terminate, what that does is that doesn't kill the train. What that does is that tells the program that you ran that train, start to finish. So it's now literally going to, in its mind, move all those cars to where they should have moved as if you ran that train. So it's important to understand the difference. Reset takes you back to where you were as if it never happened. Terminate takes you down the road to as if you actually did everything the switch list told you to do. So that's a very important distinction. So let's say I had let's say I built all these and I printed them, I handed them to my operators, they went out and they all did their work. At the end of the night I would come through and I would want to terminate, and I would do that just by clicking on it. It's going to double check. Do I want to terminate that? Yes. Do I want to terminate that? Yes. Do I want to terminate that? Yes. So you got to do that every time. So if all my trains ran in that operating session successfully, I would want to terminate all those trains. If for some reason one of them didn't run and you wanted to cancel that switch list, then you do the reset. Now there's one of them, this move is kind of in between the two of them. I'm going to go ahead and rebuild those trains one more time. You notice where it up here it tells you where it departs and where it terminates and where it currently is. Now you remember our 850 route went from Helena to Garrison to Butte, back to Garrison, and then to Helena. Well, I can actually track that town at a time by using the move button. So looking at this top row up here that I highlighted in blue, right now it's in Helena. If I hit the move button, it now says Garrison. I hit the move button again, it's now in Butte. The beauty of doing it this way is you can literally stop in the middle of an operating session, and those cars, JMRI now knows those cars are in the Butte yard. So let's say I gave this job to a guy near the end of the session. He only got as far as Butte, and then we called it a day on the session. I can stop right here, and yet I can literally move these cars from Helena to Butte in the system. So it now knows that train is sitting in Butte, but it never finished and got back to Helena yet. If he did get it finished, then we just hit move again, Garrison, and Helena. If I hit move one more time, it terminates it for me. See, now the status is terminated. So that's kind of cool. You can literally follow along in real time if you have a dispatcher sitting here and the guys are radioing in their location or OSing on station. You can literally keep JMRI up to date in real time with what's happening out on your layout. So that's a little longer than I wanted to go, but that's a quick overview of the whole thing for you. And like I said, just well, here's one more important thing. You notice I tried to close this. It says, warning, operation files not saved. You got two choices. If I hit yes and save, it now saves everything as a snapshot in time of where we are right now. If I just hit close, it'll act like I never did any of this, which is fine because I was just demonstrating for you guys. So I'm going to hit no, just close.
Well, thank you, Chris. That was that was a pretty good introductory to the operations.
So that's pretty much, at a high level what the things you have to do to make it work on a basic level. The details you'll have to get from the help and just play around with it. But if anybody, just get in touch with me, mrltrains@gmail.com. If you have any specific questions after you've worked on it and you get stuck, I'll be glad to help you out.
Thanks, Chris. That was really good. That was a good I can't even think of the word. Sorry.
Presentation.
Presentation. Thank you.
And, I'm just a user. I'm not an expert, so I don't have the answers to everything, but I'm just teaching you what I've learned from using this for 4 or 5 years now. And, I don't claim to know everything, but I'll certainly be glad to share what I do know. So,
thank you very much. I want to remind everybody about the YouTube ModelBuilders.com page. Go there for all your latest information on anything to do with the Tuesday night, Thursday night presentations, the live show, and the eMag. One other thing, this next Tuesday, December 22nd, the Barry and Mike M&R Tech Show. It'll be lighting for your layout structures. That'll be the last one for the year. And then I think our next one will start the 6th of, let's see, I think it was the 6th. The 5th will be the first presentation of the year. I haven't got the schedule up, but everybody will have the schedule out before the first of the year, so you guys can go to the U2modelbuilders.com and check out the schedule there for next year. Until then, I want to thank everybody for coming on and watching tonight's presentation, and thank you, Chris, and everybody that's been helping us out on these JMRI. Until next time.